Hello everyone, this is Quaker from Next Gen Windows, and in this video we're going to talk about the Microsoft perception. Now, the Microsoft perception is an issue that has been floating around Microsoft for quite some time in the new industry where there is Google and Apple as the major dominators of a lot of software and hardware. Not software necessarily, but mostly hardware. Um, the perception of Microsoft is that people are thinking Microsoft will become irrelevant very soon or like in the near future. Um, One thing I got to say about that is I don't believe that's going to happen at all because they claim people claim to say actually better yet to rewind a little bit. You tend to see that on websites such as Engadget, The Verge, and a whole bunch of websites across the web, and clickbait headlines and non-clickbait headlines tend to see stuff like Microsoft, the fall of Microsoft, the decline of Microsoft's relevance in the tech industry, so on and so forth, and and it's really kind of terrible when you see stuff like that because a lot of it is pretty much a lie, but at the same time, the average consumer, probably not the person that's going to be watching this video, but the average consumer who just walks into a Best Buy and has to ask an associate what a certain thing is, or what the best computer is out there, or what they should get. The average person that goes into a Best Buy, H Gregg, Walmart to buy something, they are the ones that will probably believe this headline, and then that will trickle to their friends because they will tell their friends, yeah, probably shouldn't get a Microsoft product because I heard this, this, and this. It's not very good. I was in an elevator recently and I had my Lumia 1020 out, and the person was updating to iOS 8 on their iPhone. They couldn't wait for it to come out. They were downloading it in the elevator, and she was one of the few people that actually knew that this was a Windows phone. I'm pretty sure this is because of the striking color that I got on it, the bright yellow. Now, she told me that the perception, well, she heard that Windows phones were bad, or they weren't good or anything like that. They just weren't good at all. And I told her, no, it's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good device. It works. It does everything you need to do. It has everything you need. Facebook, Instagram, Vine, what's it called? All the other apps that people use nowadays. Obviously, one app in particular that they don't have is YouTube, or any Google service, that is. But I didn't tell her all that. I just said it's good. Um, and that's pretty much what triggered me to make a video about the Microsoft perception, because a lot of people again think that Microsoft will not be relevant in the near future. They will not be. Their software is starting to just not be very good or anything like that. However, there's one thing that I do have to say, and let me see if I can in fact look this up. I'm going to show you guys a visual example of what I'm talking about how the Microsoft perception is not exactly true. And again, the perception is that Microsoft will become irrelevant in the near future with their software and all that. Because their software just isn't good, and people are talking about how the August update for Windows 8 was a failure. It had all these issues with it. This is not the application I'm talking about, but it was a failure and had a lot of issues with it. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why Microsoft is just not doing good anymore. We do know that iOS update, the most recent one, I think it was iOS 8.1, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but 8.0.1, Apple pulled that. Similar to how Microsoft had to pull their August update because there were a lot of issues coming out. But when Apple pulled that update, you didn't hear a trigger of a bunch of people, blogs and things like that saying, oh, Apple's not going to be doing good anymore because that one update did not work. You didn't hear anything like that. But when Microsoft had to pull that one August update, people on the internet were going crazy about Microsoft. They can't even do software properly anymore. That's what they are. They're a software giant. And that's completely wrong way to talk about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for Microsoft um, on the Android Play Store. So let me click on just some random Microsoft application so I can see more. Now, ignore half of these applications that most people probably won't use, but the majority of the applications that people will use, which is maybe Xbox 360, Smart Glass, let's see, Link, OneNote, the new Link actually right here, OneNote, Xbox Music, basically all the icons that you see that look like they're stylized as Metro style icons being searched. All of those applications there, they have 4 to 5 stars, maybe even three. The rare few of them that most people will look at have 3 stars. Now the ones that have 1 stars, like switch to Windows Phone, or not 1 star, like 2 stars, switch to Windows Phone mainly because one, this is an Android marketplace. This is the Google Play Store. Google doesn't like Microsoft, and a lot of people who have Android phones, or a lot of people in fact that will comment on something like this, they will, they will mark it down. So let's scroll down and just view the comments. Let's see if I can actually view the comments. Scroll down. So here it is. This is funny to me. Following replacements were suggested. AT&T Wi-Fi to battery. No, obviously wrong. So like all of these things here, are about app selection and things like that. But you're gonna see stuff like this about anything that Microsoft's trying to promote their own software over Google's, whether it be don't use Google Docs, use Microsoft Word or something like that. Those are gonna get tagged down a lot. But apps like Xbox 360, Smart Glass, OneNote has 4 stars. Smart Glass has 5 stars. Let's see, OneDrive, formerly Microsoft SkyDrive, 5 stars. Office 365 admin has 3 stars, which is still pretty good. It's average. Xbox Music, even though Google has Play Music, Xbox Music has 3.5 stars, almost 4 stars. You can just say it has 4 stars. Just a lot of these applications do have really high stars, and it's crazy to see that. It's just crazy to see that on even a Google marketplace. Now fast forward a little bit and go to, not fast forward, but now move over to another platform, iOS, Apple's platform of mobile devices. You'll see that Microsoft software is pretty dominant on that platform over there. If you look at the top apps, at least when I had an iPad about a month ago, on the top apps overall, top grossing, not top grossing, but the top apps in general, I think top free apps, because they have Office, which then you got to use an in-app purchase to get 365 through iOS. The top free apps was Word, I believe it was PowerPoint, OneNote, and I believe there was something else. Basically all the Microsoft Office apps, Word, OneNote, PowerPoint, Excel, things like that. All of those things were near the top of the charts on iOS. And even Apple themselves on the new Mac OS, the new OS 10 point, whatever new, I think it's 10.10. The new Mac OS, they're even going to be using for Spotlight Bing as default, which is again a Microsoft software. So but the trend you're going to see though is that Microsoft's hardware isn't doing too hot. You can argue that Windows Phone is doing great, and Surface is doing great now. Surface 3 is doing great, but they're not doing nearly as hot as Office and all of those software that Microsoft creates. That just shows that Microsoft's specialty is still software, and they're pretty much rookies in hardware. They've done hardware before. It wasn't too popular, just like it isn't too popular now, but their software is still key in the market, in the ecosystem. So if you look at, again, iOS, Bing is becoming the default on iOS. Currently on iOS and OS 10, Bing is default for Spotlight search. If you look in their iOS App Store, a lot of Microsoft apps are becoming default. If you look at Office in general for Windows, there's a lot of different Office suites for Windows computers, and the default that most people tend to gear towards is Microsoft Office. They don't use say Google Docs. A lot of people argue Google Docs is better than Office. But a lot of people in businesses, they will actually go towards Microsoft Office. Even at the school I am right now at, if you look on every single computer that the school owns, there's Office on every single computer. They don't use any free Office application. I forgot which ones there are. I think it's Quick Office or Open Office. They don't use any of those things. They use Microsoft Office because it's trusted software and they know how it works. They know that they'll get updates and it's easy to use and everyone knows about it. They use Microsoft Office. They don't use anything else. If you look at how Microsoft currently and Satya Nadella they are porting a lot of their applications over to the competition, iOS and Android. Why? Because they're going where the market is. If they were to continue to, gear only towards Windows Phone, they would quickly start losing a lot of money. Yes, they're still making a ton of money, buttloads of money, but they will start losing a lot of money. So if you go and put Office where the market share is, which is iOS and Android, you notice right away that they're making a lot of money from it, which they're a business, so they have to make money. They're a corporation. On top of that, you can see that because they're really good at their job, which is software mostly, you'll see that their software is actually going pretty high up on the charts on all of those marketplaces. It's pretty crazy. Only a marketplace that I did see that their software isn't nowhere near the top is in fact the Google Play Store. I don't know why, but it's just there. They haven't added even the new Office suite to the Google Play Store yet, but you can just see that their software in general, on iOS especially, which most people do use, their software is at the top. On desktop software, their software is at the top, especially in terms of Office software. Their software is at the top. Just most things in general, in terms of software, their things are at the top. When they go into hardware, which they're not so good at, their software is at the bottom. Not their software, their hardware is at the bottom. Windows Phone, it is the number 3, but it is under 10% in the US, but it's still number 3, and it is, it's pretty much the bottom of the major platforms nowadays. Major platforms nowadays being Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. You can argue that BlackBerry is there, but BlackBerry is now dropped to like 1% or 1.6%. So you can see the top 3 is those 3 platforms, Windows Phone being at the bottom of the top 3 list. So it just shows that Microsoft, yes, they're trying to learn to do software. They're not trying to learn to do software. They're trying to learn to do hardware really well. They're getting better at it. Surface Pro 3 is starting to do really, really well. I heard it's sold out in a lot of places now. I'm not sure whether that means they didn't make enough or whether they made a tiny amount and those tiny amounts of Surface Pro 3s sold out. But I am seeing more Surface Pro 3s out there, just my daily walk-arounds. I see Surface Pro 3s around, quite a few of them. And they're starting to become like the equivalent of people who buy MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros. Where I live, at least, they're starting to become more relevant in that area. So it just shows college students, people who are just trying to buy computers for school and things like that. I am seeing more Surface Pro 3s. So that's a good thing. But in terms of everything else, where Microsoft has their foot still perfectly in the door, it is definitely still software. They're still going to be relevant in software. Even if their hardware stuff fails completely and they stop doing hardware, they can make all of their money from software alone, which they were doing in the past and they can continue to do in the future, because their design style and everything like that, it's key on point. And a lot of platforms still need their stuff. A lot of businesses still need their stuff. So Microsoft, they're still pretty good. They're still going to be relevant in the near future. So this is a false cause. Again, this has been Quaker for Next Gen Windows, and this has been the Microsoft perception. Just a quick video of me talking about the perception around Microsoft currently, the current state of Microsoft as of September 23rd, 2014. Catch you guys later. Peace.